And, as always, it is what it is. Enter. Done.
Hey, Craig, what you doing?
What? Drinking. No, I'm just finishing up the script for the next episode. I know you and Bridget have been busy with school, but we haven't put out a new show in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know, but luckily we just got done and we were about to get started on the next script.
No need, Mommy Pharaoh, because I already finished it. And let me tell you, it was not easy. These manual keyboards aren't exactly snake-friendly, if you know what I'm saying. Every time I had to try to cut and paste, I had to get my little sister Tina to press the control key. Tina! Do you have any idea the amount of mouthies I had to pay her?
Sorry, I had no idea. I'm really sorry, man.
Sorry doesn't catch the mouthies, mammal. And these were delicious, locally sourced mouthies that I've been saving for summer.
Seriously, we didn't know. Hey, how about some tequila for your troubles?
Tequila? It's a start. As I always say, forgiveness begins with tequila.
And ends with bad decisions.
That's what she said.
Alright, let's just start this thing.
Run it.
Recorded in Round Rock, Texas, in front of a live teleconferenced audience, it's the What's Update with Xander Quation.
Season 3, Crackpots, Karens, and Robber Barons.
Welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander Quation. Let's get started. After more than 30 years selling Russians burgers, fries, and chicken nuggets, fast food giant McDonald's is closing up shop, selling off its businesses, and leaving the country. Rumor has it that the Kremlin plans to take over the locations and rebrand as McRonald's. They will then attempt to annex Burger King, saying that it's always been a part of Burgerland. They even have 2 new mascots, Donald McRonald, the orange clown, and his tiny best friend, the land burglar. With 87% of Christian nuns and monks now over the age of 60, some have taken to social media like TikTok to recruit new members to the cloistered life. In addition to participating in trends such as lip syncing and skincare routines, they've done Q&A sessions and demonstrated special holiday meals. If we might make another suggestion to draw in new folks to a life of celibacy, chastity, and obedience, living in a monastery or convent, maybe try giving out some cool-sounding names like Sister Mary Nunchucks, or Sister Mary Katana, or Father Chainsaw.
Forgive me, Father.
Forgive me, Father. No. Forgive me. After a long series of lawsuits and negotiations, the U.S. Soccer Federation has agreed to the demands of the U.S. players' unions regarding equal treatment. Both the men's and the women's teams are entitled to the same economic terms for their contracts, which is a big step forward for the female players. However, thanks to Republicans in more than half of all U.S. states, the women will be forced to carry the ball for 9 months, or it's considered a red card.
Oh.
We'll get to that.
That's so not okay.
Despite over 1 million deaths from COVID, seems like it just wasn't enough for some people. Gun-related homicides increased by 35% in 2020, reaching the highest levels in U.S. history. Nobody seems sane enough to seriously talk about gun regulation, so maybe we could either increase the scale of social distancing or decrease the range of the guns. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it's worth a shot. But who wrote this?
What is a mammal?
God damn it, Craig! We're gonna get canceled soon.
No, we're not. No, I'm not going to get canceled because of Craig. It's just not going to happen.
You underestimate the power of Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, and in that, on another note, I'm sorry, seriously, Craig. Seriously.
You're the mammal. I don't know. Get some brains or something.
Shut up, Craig.
You shut up.
And now, welcome to our newest segment that we are calling, well, it's not the weirdest thing the Japanese have done. Oh, no. It gets worse. Let me get started. First up, thousands of Japanese people are unofficially marrying fictional characters. In addition to holding nuptial ceremonies and taking wedding photos, they eat, sleep, watch TV, and go away on romantic vacations with plush representations of their inanimate significant others. In Tokyo's specialty districts, they can even buy love letters from their favorite fictional characters and reproductions of their clothes. Yikes. I mean, next thing you know, they'll be marrying unattainable esoteric concepts, such as parental approval, or even sex with another human being. Despite long-standing taboos on tattoos, an increasing number of Japanese people are getting inked. For years, tattoos have been linked to Japanese crime syndicates, but fans of anime and body art are bucking the societal norms. For the uninformed, Japanese tattoos are like Japanese cartoons. The characters are still, and only the backgrounds move. Recently, archaeologists discovered an ancient lead sarcophagus along with fragments of a rood screen under Notre Dame Cathedral, offering new insight into the history of the building, currently undergoing restoration after 2019's devastating fire. Seriously? The next thing you know, there's just gonna be starving babies everywhere.
Oh, damn.
Ah, crap. In response to a nationwide shortage of baby formula, President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act to increase supply. The initiative states that suppliers of key ingredients for the formula must prioritize production and delivery to the manufacturers in order to get it back on the shelves as soon as possible. Of course, it had to be accomplished through an executive order. Republicans in Congress would have never voted for it. They stop caring about babies the second they're born.
Yep.
In a situation straight out of Breaking Bad, a drug trafficking organization operating out of a local Mexican eatery was discovered in South Carolina. The restaurant, Los Primos, was used to distribute methamphetamines, cocaine, and heroin from Mexican drug cartels, selling the product out of the building itself, and even through their fleet of food trucks. Honestly, they were fighting a losing battle there. No amount of drugs can make a hard-shelled taco edible. And while we're on the subject of the South, we continue our coverage of Dixie Pixie, living legend, and national treasure, Miss Dolly Parton, in our recurring segment, Dolly Watch.
Yay!
There's real fans out there, guys. Miss Dolly recently partnered with baking company Duncan Hines to create a brand new line of her favorite southern desserts.
Yeah.
New cake mixes will include methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin. Wait, that's a shit from the other joke! Craig, again?
No, hey, man, look, that was Tina, it wasn't me.
Sure. Anyway, the actual new cake mixes will include Southern-style coconut and Southern-style banana, and appropriately branded versions of the creamy buttercream and chocolate buttercream icings. You can even purchase a deluxe kitchen set with all of Dolly's flavors and a spatula with a matching tea towel that says, if you are what you eat, then why not be sweet? I couldn't agree more, but I seriously doubt there's anyone sweeter than Miss Parton.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a quick check-in with my tia Linda. Stick around.
Yeah!
And now it's time to get involved with my Tia Linda.
Hi, Tia Linda here reporting on the Bands Off Our Bodies rally, which took place in San Antonio on May 14th. And let me be clear, I marched for my right, my daughter's right, and the rights of all women to make healthcare decisions about our own bodies. As an adult, law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, I'm the only person who should decide when, if, and how many children I have. No one else should have that right. Overturning Roe v. Wade will not stop abortions. It will only prevent them from being safe and legal. Reducing the number of abortions starts with identifying the root causes. As parents, we must advocate for age-appropriate, fact-based sex education in schools. As citizens of a developed nation, we must demand making short-term and long-term birth control free and easily accessible. As human beings, we must insist on processing every rape kit immediately and then prosecute rapists to the fullest extent of the law. These few simple measures will have a much more significant impact on reducing abortions than infringing on any woman's right to bodily autonomy. We are calling on our elected officials to codify Roe v. Wade into law so that a woman's right to have complete control of her own body doesn't depend on which political party is in power. On that Saturday, I marched alongside women who took to the streets for this cause in the 1960s and 70s. I shouldn't have to still be marching for this in another 30 to 40 years. Say it with me, people. My body, my choice.
Welcome back. Now, I don't want to alarm anyone, but things outside have gotten a little weird lately. Okay, not lately at this point. Things have been pretty weird for quite some time now. Autobiographically speaking, I got one full semester in college before the plague hit. As weird plus, though, I started the show. Of course, depending on how you feel about the show, well, all 5 of you that watch regularly, of course, it might be less of a plus than just a, So that's something a person could certainly do to eat up a ton of their time.
Yep.
If you don't happen to like the show, don't blame me, blame COVID.
Yep.
However, if you do like the show, then it was all me.
And don't forget about me, man.
Shut
up, Craig.
You shut up.
Shut up.
So as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, infection, election, insurrection, invasion, inflation, and these are just the things that end in ION that are seriously out of control. Not a day goes by without some mention in the news of some pretty apocalyptic shit. The recent racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo that killed 10 and injured 3 was the 198th mass shooting in 2022 alone, according to the Gun Violence Archive. School shootings, synagogue shootings, concert shootings, church shootings, grocery store shootings, road rage, Karens, cops, they're killing people like hotcakes out here.
That is so true.
And if the plague didn't give you enough reason to stay indoors, the rash of focused and unfocused violence randomly occurring might give you a moment's pause at the front door. This nonsense seems to be coming out of nowhere all the damn sudden. Or does it?
Mm-hmm.
So, here's the thing. We are smack dab in the middle of the culmination of a 50-year cycle of violence. What? I hear you saying. 50 years? Nobody remembers anything for that long. Violence? Hasn't it always been this fucked up? The answer to both of those questions is no, actually. As a matter of fact, boomers and Gen Xers are currently on their second round of this shit.
Word.
But what, you may ask, is the 50-year cycle of violence? Good question. In 2012, entomologist and cliodynamicist Peter Turchin published a paper on the dynamics of socio-political instability in the United States between 1780 and 2010. Now, I can feel some of y'all pulling back. They're like, Ento what? Cleo, huh? Don't worry, I'll explain. An entomologist is a person who studies or is an expert in the branch of zoology concerned with bugs. A cliodynamicist is someone that studies a transdisciplinary area of research that integrates cultural evolution, economic history, macrosociology, the mathematical modeling of historical processes, and the construction and analysis of historical databases. In simpler terms, a big honkin' math-based history nerd.
Yeah.
Cliodynamics treats history like a science. Its devotees formulate hypotheses that explain things like the rise and fall of empires, population booms and busts, and the spread and disappearance of religions. So, anyway, Pete the Bug Guy wrote a paper in which he describes a database of sociopolitical instability in the United States between 1780 and 2010. The data includes 1,590 political violence events, such as riots, lynchings, and terrorism. Social and political violence fluctuated over the 230 years covered by the database. Two main patterns emerged. First, it was a secular cycle, presenting as an instability wave during the second half of the 19th century, bracketed by two peaceful periods, the first quarter of the 19th century and the middle decades of the 20th. The second is a 50-year pattern, with peaks around the 1870s during the Jim Crow Reconstruction era, the 1920s during the Great Depression and Prohibition, and the 1970s at the tail end of the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights era. These patterns are evident in other historical forms of political instability, such as the fall of Rome, medieval and early modern England, and the French and Russian revolutions. A possible explanation of this, as discussed in the article, is offered by a structural demographic theory. The fundamental problem stems from a bloated elite class, with too few elite jobs to go around, declining living standards among the general population, and a government that can't cover its financial positions. This produces a wave of prolonged and extreme socio-political instability. In simpler terms, a few obscenely rich people seem to delight in making life unbearable for hordes of increasingly disadvantaged poor people, to the point where shit has nowhere to go but really damn sideways.
Yeah.
But why, you may ask, does this lead to increased violence? Glad you asked. Let's break it down. First, when elites are faced with a surge of labor that slows growth in wages and productivity, they tend to take a larger portion of the economic gains for themselves. This exponentially drives up inequality. For example, compensation for CEOs is on average 278 times greater than their average worker. Not their lowest paid worker, their average worker. The income gap was only a 20-to-1 ratio back in 1965. To put this in perspective, Elon Musk makes about $23,000 a minute. That is almost twice what a minimum wage earner is able to earn in working 40 hours a week in a year. He makes more money per second than a lot of people make per week. And next, when faced with greater competition or elite wealth and status, those already reaping the benefits of a rigged system throw up roadblocks in the path of upward mobility. They make it harder for people to move up the social and economic ladder, keeping the positions for themselves and their kids. In a society trending towards meritocracy, elites fight to keep places at top universities limited and raise the entry requirements and costs in ways that favor children of those who had already succeeded. Rich people make it harder for other people to get rich. Remember, kids, you can't spell greedy bastards without go fuck yourself. Finally, this creates anxiety in those trying to hold on to their ever-expanding fortunes. They do all they can to avoid taxation of their wealth and profits, even if that means starving the government of much-needed revenues. The result is a decaying infrastructure, declining public services, and fast-rising government debts. People with this level of wealth can buy the influence to keep their taxes and societal obligations low. They don't worry about shitty roads or failing public schools because their wealth shields them from hardships experienced by those not in the elite class. Basically, when there are too many extremely rich people for those positions of power that extremely rich people usually scoop up, some of them go rogue and buy themselves into power by throwing assloads of cash at elections. The Trump crime syndicate is the hyperinflated human face of elite overproduction. Well, not so much human as a walking pile of orange crap, but you know the word. But hey, aren't we supposed to be talking about violence?
Yeah, where's the violence?
Yeah, man, where's the
Yes, indeed.
violence?
It's right up here.
Okay, good.
This
Bring
type
on
of
the violence!
selfishness.
Shut up,
Shut up,
Craig.
Greg. This type of selfishness comes from elites, causes revolution. It creates a boiling cauldron of fear and discord made worse by greater inequality and declining effectiveness of and respect for the government. Take a moment and think about the last few weeks. Okay, now that you're done with your panic attack, think about this. The rise in domestic and foreign political instability comes as commodity prices have risen to their highest levels in years, leaving many governments struggling to maintain their citizens' living standards. Supply chain issues, skyrocketing gas prices, impossible housing prices, massive student loan debt, food insecurity, violence against women, people of color, and the LGBTQ community have become an inescapable part of daily life. People are on edge. I mean, how many of those videos have you seen on social media of someone losing their shit over something trivial or insignificant? How many stories have you seen on the news about someone shooting up a place? Hell, we still haven't completely dealt with the 1/6 erection, and that was over 500 days ago now.
Erection?
Erection, Mammal? You sure?
Are you sure?
I don't think that was the word you was looking for, Mammal.
We'll fix it in post.
No, the 1/6 what?
The 1/6 insurrection.
Insurrection!
Yeah, an erection is a completely different thing.
That's different. That's front tail stuff.
Although, honestly, it's not too dissimilar since we all got fucked anyways.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh.
Oh.
So, going past that,
How many days ago was it?
that was over 500 days.
There it is. Okay.
Alright, back on track. Fix it in post.
Yeah, sure.
The baby formula shortage has the potential to turn really ugly really fast. Is it all that hard to imagine a parent trying to get formula to feed their baby going completely apeshit if somebody grabs the last can right in front of them? I don't have kids, but if my baby was hungry and some jackass swooped in and bought the last batch of infant edibles right in front of me, just saying that HEB sometimes sells butcher knives. And it's not just supply shortages making people nutsy. I mean, who hasn't been stuck on in traffic on I-35 and seriously contemplated low-scale genocide? Just me?
Yeah.
What the word I'm looking for is anyway. Now, imagine that you were at the end of your rope. Disease, unemployment, inflation, and extreme tribalistic partisanship are all ingredients for a revolution. The real problem is, as it has often been in these scenarios, that the raw anger and frustration people feel is rarely aimed in the right direction. Regular folks are acting out on other regular folks. The political and economic elites keep the rabble fighting amongst themselves by preying on their beliefs and superstitions. In their efforts to retain and amass even more wealth, rich people with power are convincing those without power to act against their own best interests. Tale as old as time, vodka with the lime, fighting amongst the least.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Those who fail to learn from history probably took non-AP classes in Texas. Yes, I took all AP classes, but I digress. The subtitle to this show, really.
Yes, it's all a digression.
This is not new. Every 50 years or so, things get really scary and out of control. Cycles of violence are not always unproductive, though. The civil rights and women's rights movements, unionization, and the creation of the social safety net started with political unrest. In some ways, all social movements of consequence start with people standing up for themselves and saying no. According to Pete the Bug Guy's research, this too shall pass. What the world will look like on the other end, however, is a lot harder to predict. I mean, the difference between now and all the other shakeups in the past is the internet.
Yep.
Everybody's favorite. People can more effectively organize through social media and mass communications. This is a good thing. However, people can also be fed a steady diet of misinformation disguised as real information. The Buffalo shooter was indoctrinated by white replacement theory and white supremacy screeds. Oh, sure, you say. The internet is a cesspool of filth and fear. And while that's true, this misinformation and hysteria is also available 24 hours a day on Fox News.
Peanut.
So, where does it all end? Well, Timmy, stop interrupting and I'll tell you. If this historical cycle plays out as usual, all of this should result in another advancement for humankind. With looming global crises like climate change, it's gonna take all of us pulling our shit together and getting past this internal squabbling. I guess you can understand why the super rich dudes are building privately owned spaceships at this point. They know that once people figure out who is really to blame for all the suffering and misery, they're gonna need a quick exit strategy.
Yeah.
I sure hope that Mars doesn't hold Musk, Bezos, Page, Ellison, and Zuckerberg against us. Live long and prosper. We'll be right back with our comedian Andy Kindler. Stick around.
Yeah!
Insurrection.
Welcome back. Let's hop right in with our 3 standard questions. Who you, what to do, and why.
So, who am I? My name is, why would you say my name is when you say, I'm Andy Kindler? But you know, I have ADHD and I have OCD, so I can never remember a series of questions. So what was the second one?
Next one's what do?
What do I do? I'm a
Yes.
stand-up comedian
Right.
or stand-up comic, would be another way. We haven't found what the perfect word is that takes any gender out of it. Although maybe comic is. I don't know. That's not that's not my wheelhouse.
And then finally, why?
Why am I doing stand-up? Why do I do stand-up comedy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, I do it because I wanted to be a musician when I'm 65 years old. So I'm going to admit my age because I've tried to hide it and it just doesn't work. But when I was a little kid, I was born in 56. So my first memory was watching the Beatles. Not my first memory, but I really loved the Beatles and I wanted to become a musician. And so I tried to make a living as a musician for many years. I knew I wanted to do something with performing or something. And then I just happened to stumble into stand-up comedy. And also because my whole family's funny. Kind of.
On that topic.
You know, it's like a lot of people don't know that they're funny. Like I thought everybody had a sense of humor, but like Jonathan Winters once said, most people don't have a sense of humor. They think they do. Yeah, they don't.
The age of the internet has definitely revealed that.
Right, but I thought like my father was hilarious. My whole family was funny. So it took me many, many years to realize that because comedy came easy to me, that I could apply it to a career.
It only took me a trip through the education system to realize that not a lot of people have a sense of humor.
True.
Are you the funniest person in your family?
Well, I don't. Well, first of all, not that you asked me who's left alive in my family, but I will tell you who's left alive, only because it's been such a crazy few years. So and I'm not saying this to get any sympathy. So I don't want any crying. I don't want any tissues passed out. But at the beginning of the pandemic, which was March of 2020, I lost my sister and my mother within 10 days. They both passed away. So a very, very long story. But the point is, it had nothing to do with COVID. So one of my, what I call jokes, was that one of the things that made it more painful was having to go through the extra, yes, I know, it's not COVID. Yes, I know. How's it possible that it wasn't COVID? But I have to spend a long time explaining why it wasn't related to COVID. So so that was my mother and my sister. My father passed in 2015, and he was, I think, the funniest person I ever met. Just instantly funny. But I think that everybody in my family is pretty funny. If you had to pin me down and say, they would probably all say that I was, well, the ones who are left living. Here's the thing. I can't help but, okay, once my father died, I'd started doing material about that. So people were like, they were really like shocked. And so I was coming up with jokes like, look, my father would have wanted me to do weak material about his passing. Nothing would have made him happier. He pulled me aside when he wasn't feeling so good, and he said, Andy, when this is all over, I hope you can turn it into another one of your bits that goes nowhere. I hope. So I started, then I came up with this other joke. It's all based on funerals, but this joke I thought was hilarious. But this joke's not good because most people don't know the joke it's based on. But then I get to explain the joke and everyone's happy. So here's the joke. At my dad's funeral, my mother turned towards me and she said, Andy, I have to. You? So when I tell that joke in a club, I explain that most of you will not understand the joke, but it would be very funny if you did. Okay? So when people
explaining a
look
joke
at me,
makes it much funnier.
yeah, well, in my case, it has helped.
Yeah.
So I say, so when they look at me stunned, I say, okay, here's another thing. I have OCD, ADHD, my mind goes blank. So what was it? Did anyone know what I was just saying?
You were talking about the joke where like.
Okay. The original joke is, a guy goes home, he finds his best friend in bed with his wife, and he says, Harry, I have to, but you?
That one.
So now when you transfer that premise to a funeral, and I have to, but you? Very, very funny. So I didn't know before my dad passed that I would find humor in this, because I was one of these people who said I was so lucky I lost, like whenever I watch TV and they say, you hear somebody go, like I'm watching a TV show or whatever, and someone's getting, talking about how their grandparents were passed away. It was like, I'm like, cry me a river. I lost my grandparents when I was 12. That's nothing. Suck it up.
You have the ultimate Jewish one-upsmanship on anybody who's talking about tragedy.
That's exactly right. Jews do. It's not Schadenfreude. That's a different word. And why isn't that word, which is a perfect word, why does it have to be German?
Well, because that makes the entire situation even funnier.
Right. It's so funny because like it is now getting to the point where even these, because I used to do jokes like, I watched Boris Becker playing tennis, and he's complaining. There's nothing more attractive than an unhappy German, right? So then I would say, like, Andy, people go, Andy, what, it goes, I'm not germ phobic, but I'm German phobic. Those people still make me scared. So then, and then people go, Andy, when are you going to let it go? When are you going to not have these feelings towards Germany? And I was like, I'll let you know, okay? Right now. But the thing is, that joke really, you can do it. It really is now. The further you get away from anyone's connection to it who lives in Germany, you know what I mean? It's like a weird. It starts to get to the war. Many Jews were like, "I'm not going to buy German products. I'm not going to buy this." But now, it's just a weird thing that it would be so long that people would say, "Why don't you like the Germans?" And it really is true that ultimately they were not Nazis because they were German. So I think it's interesting. I'm not saying it's funny. I'm not saying it's unique. I'm not saying we learned anything from it, but it's over, at least what I was talking about.
And yet, Nazi jokes are still really funny.
The Nazi joke. Here, I have a whole series of these jokes.
I got a good
and
one
I love
too.
every one of them. Hitler is just like Hitler, except at least Hitler could spell Poland.
Well, I got one
Trump
for you.
is just like what's that?
So I got one for you. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
We will ask the questions. That
Was
only
that your
works if you're
was that
telling a
your
joke to somebody
Nazi
you trust.
Voice? Yes.
Yes.
Voice? Let me hear that again, because I had a little delay on that.
And I got another one. So how did you defeat Captain America? Well, we shot him in the legs because his shield is the size of a dinner plate. Yeah, classic of internet culture. Yeah.
So funny. I was thinking, if I could just, this has happened to me a lot since I've been in therapy, where my mind goes blank, I get anxious, and then I can't remember what we're talking about, but it'll come back to me. Not during this interview.
Yeah. Well, we were still on the topic of funerals.
Oh, okay. I know what it is. Okay, I remember now. That joke when I was a kid. One of the people who took me. Okay, so I was born in '56. I was born 11 years after. So, the woman one of the parents. We used to go to Jewish religious school, and it was horrible. You know, I'm sure all religious schools are bad, particularly horrible. I'm not talking about yeshiva. I'm talking about you go to a Reform temple on Sunday and someone's parents tell you about Judah and the Maccabees.
Yeah, and I went through that process. It's ups and downs.
And I would say that I don't remember my bar mitzvah, but I do remember I killed. The rabbi couldn't follow me. I got 6 applause breaks during my Haftorah reading. So anyway, this lady would drive her name, she was the sweetest person in the world, but she had been a concentration camp survivor, and she had numbers on her arm. And so one time I was in the back seat, and somebody said something, and I kind of said, because we would do this as kids, that kidding around thing. All Jewish kids do it. Yeah. Every kids do it. So I said to her, so I said, we have ways of making you talk or something. And the whole, in my mind, the whole car got quiet. And I felt so terrible about it. But then years later, I saw the person in a comedy club that she had come to see me because I'm still friends with her daughter, who I would go to Jewish school with. And she said that she thought I didn't like her when I was a kid. Because she sensed my horror. You know what I mean? Like, she sensed my horror of making the wrong joke. She didn't even notice that. She just noticed that I was, in other words, it's just, to me, it taught me so much about perceptions and yeah, it's just amazing to me because I just assumed, it's very hard for me to look back on things that happened when I was a kid and have empathy for it, although that's what therapy is good for, where you have to have empathy for yourself. But when I was a kid, I was like, how could you say that to why would I be angry at myself? I was 8 years old or whatever and kidding around. And then why would she have gotten upset about it? She didn't. But she thought I just didn't like her for years. So anyway, isn't that amazing?
Yep. And also, I think this is the earliest and longest tangent we've gotten onto during an interview.
I'm so sorry about that. And
no. This program is oops all tangents. Like we never stay on topic for long. So
my act is really buttoned down. No, I'm kidding, but when I use sarcasm, it never works. And it's not just on Twitter. I'm finding out.
Well, it's mostly just because of a bad freaking connection. Like I'm plugged directly. I'm plugged directly into internet, and I'm still getting audio drop-offs.
Oh, right, but I hope you're not getting any audio drop-offs of my pearls of wisdom that are going into the Zoom session.
Only
just a little bit.
Oh my God, this is unacceptable.
It
demand.
It might work out on the recording though. It might just be my computer.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding about the whole thing. This is life now. I never plan to see anybody ever again. This is a dream gig now for me, comedy. I never leave my. And look, I have a whole thing back here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of a setup back there.
Very nice.
People say I don't have a. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to put a fake library behind me. I've got knickknacks.
Yeah.
Tchotchkes.
For me, it's like, if I had the money, I might as well capture the city of Round Rock and hold it captive on my show. Go full supervillain over the pandemic.
Oh yeah, you have that looks pretty, but that looks, see, the thing that you have going on is the illusion of depth of field.
Yeah, well,
I
that's
am really very shallow.
Well, actually, it also helps because this isn't green screen; it's physical.
Yeah, you sold that good.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying you're in front of a water tower?
No. This is a tapestry. Like I found somebody who did some really good photography of the city of Round Rock, and they were able to print it on a full tapestry.
I thought you were saying it's not green screen; it's real. See, that's how. And you were kind of saying that, but you meant fabric. You're saying this is old school. When they, instead of having a green screen, they would paint a specific backdrop.
Like, hey, when we get to like lighting glitches, like I move my head to the side too much and then overexposes, you can see the creases. Because that's my life now with this freaking camera.
Are you at the school? What school do you go to?
I go to the University of Texas at Austin.
I think I knew that. I love, that's the greatest. I come out and I'm supposed to be at the Moon Tower Festival this year, but I'm not coming this year. But I go to the Moon Tower Festival every single year, which is a really great comedy festival.
Well, if you change your mind on coming, any chance you can give us some backstage passes?
You absolutely. I would give you. I'm very, very good about comps. If it's no skin off my specific nose, what do I worry about? Boy, I actually no. I just realized that all these comps are hurting my door fee. And that's it. It's over. No, you paid through the nose. You paid through the nose. No, but I love Austin so much. I love Austin so much. I can't believe it's icy there now.
Yeah,
I guess it is. Yeah.
I have about an hour commute to and from campus every day, so it gets.
But you're not set up for snow, right? You're never set up for snow.
No,
right?
We're not.
Oh, the greatest food. I love the food there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Barbecue.
Food, culture. It's good stuff. Hey, next time you're in town, maybe we can get some beers and tacos.
I only smoke pot. Am I allowed to say that to it? Am I allowed to say that to an undergraduate? See,
yeah.
this is where
I'm not
OCD.
a child.
I know, but like I have terrible OCD, so I'm always worried that I'm going to do something wrong. I smoked pot with maybe I shouldn't admit this. I think I can.
Don't worry.
Maybe-
Nobody watches this show, so you
Okay,
can
so it's
say.
like my nephew, before he was, I think, even 18, maybe I had smoked pot with him. And so, because they said maybe he was 17. I started pot when I was 14. But I said, what is he? I said, what's he, something like, what does he like when he gets high or something? And they said, he gets hungry. Oh, yeah. I was trying to ask, he was 17, right? I was trying to ask if it was okay that he'd already been smoking for a couple of years, but it was okay that he got high. And they thought I was asking what's he like when he gets high. And they went, oh, like hungry, gets hungry. So anyway, I can't be arrested for getting a nephew. I mean, it's America now, right?
I think so. Anyway, it's no problem on this show. You know, we've done interviews with Greg Sipes. I'm pretty sure was high throughout the entire interview. Then also one with Greg Proops, where he was actively smoking an entire blunt throughout the course of the interview. Like,
well, I don't want to do that. In fact, if you ever really asked me, I would say that was nonsense. When I was on that show, that's my character, Andy Kindler, the comedian. I don't even talk to my nephews and nieces.
All the world's a stage and all that.
That's true.
Yeah. And trying to get back on track here.
You look a lot more confident than I looked when I was your age. How old are you?
20.
Okay, I know these are.
You know, it's been a rough couple of years, but I have to pause to think about that.
It's a rude question. It's always a rude question, but it's the kind of thing like, I was in a band once with a drummer who would always like say the wrong things. Like he would go into a party, and go, "Hi, who are you?" Okay, so that's the kind of thing. Like, it's none of my business how old you are. But when I was your age, I don't think I looked as good. I was still in the. It was still wanting to know. I didn't have a mullet. But I didn't know whether I was going to go along with the hair. It was crazy.
Well, currently just sticking with this haircut, mainly because was it Madeline Smithberg who called me?
Yes, it was
Madeline Smithberg came on the show previously. I had a lit up starry background, had this haircut, and she had referred to me as a space Elvis. And so apparently that's my look.
I don't think that's a bad look. And I went to the same college as Madeline Smithberg.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know this. I don't think till because I'm older. I think I'm considerably older not considerably older than her, but I think I have a few years on her. What is this? Well, I was talking like who talks like that? I got a couple of years on you, kid. Stop with me. I got 44 years on you.
Kid, you're not. I remember when a quarter used to cost a nickel.
So are you a stand-up or no?
Not yet. You know, anything's possible once, you know, I can actually start getting out of the house a bit more. Yeah.
And what's this class for?
What do you mean?
Are you doing this interview for your thesis? For
Oh
your
no, I'm doing this for
degree?
my show. This is just something for me.
Are you kidding me? You told me that this was going to get you 8 credits.
Well,
never.
I'm lying. I'm completely lying. But you don't understand. I've been out of college so long. I don't know what you're doing over there. I don't know if you were doing this as a research thing. I don't know. I forgot. You probably told me you had a show, but I forgot about it.
Honestly, this show kind of doubles for a lot of my college projects. Mainly through like my media classes will be like, oh, you got to do an interview with somebody on a topic that pertains to current events. And I'm like, well, I quite often ask people who call on my show about how they're working in COVID, so let's use that. So these things often
you try and
multitask.
That's very, very good. That's very good. But no, I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know. It doesn't matter to me that I was. Everything I'm saying to you is a character that I'm doing. Why would it be more important to me if you were doing it for a course in school? Why do I think that I'm going to be a collegiate study of some kind? Is that what I'm hoping?
Yeah, definitely a scholarly
You're
article.
not the first college. Oh, thank you.
All right, now trying to get back on track here. Is there anything that
before you get on track? Do you do your show out of that studio?
Yes. This is pretty much the studio that we have right now. Our staff is pretty limited, but we're slowly upgrading our stuff to try and make it a bit of a reel so that we can pitch this to any TV networks in the area.
Oh, cool.
Or quite
And
possibly
how much? And then at that point, we can, you know what I mean? At that point, we talk about
the next step of this show is to get money for it, because that would be nice.
Well, I'm your man. People look at me and they go, "What are those people who raise money? Rich people,
investors, fundraisers."
No, but what do they call the rich people who do it? What do they call it?
Lobbyists.
Patrons. No, not lobbyists.
Patrons.
No, not patrons. No. The people who they even get to pay less taxes on this kind of a thing that these rich people put together. Politicians. This is so sad. You know, I'm not saying that.
You just opened it up there.
No, because I'm saying that you have to look forward to this when you're 65, but I really am. It's not dementia, because if it was dementia, I've been worried about it for 10 years, so it would have started by now. But this is what you have to look forward to. It's like they're not called entrepreneurs; they're called 501(c)s, and not that 501.
Oh,
come on.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm trying to use the
in the
encyclopedia Gen X over here.
It was a big thing in the election about, are we going to tax these guys?
PACs.
PACs, super PACs.
Yeah, but what are they called? There's a name for these people who raise money for rich people, and they have rich people accounts.
PACs.
Political action committees.
No, you're going to be so sad. You should be so sad. Hedge fund managers. They're hedge fund managers. I'm okay. Let me take a little sip of coffee. I think I'm okay.
So I just need to find hedge fund managers for the show.
They get taxed less. They get taxed at a less rate than someone who works for a living. Because, in other words, for administering the funds. Because, I didn't know this was a real capitalist. You guys were pro-capitalist. I'm sorry.
All right, so now with your blessing, maybe we get back on track here after we've already gone to outer space and back.
Get me back on track. I'm counting on you to get me back on track.
Getting back to the fourth standard question after who, you, what, do, and why. Is there anything you're working on or have coming out soon that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Well, that would have been true. You could have asked me this at any time in my life, and I would have said this and that. But where am I? I can't go anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm not. I'd like to, like my wife said to me, let's put out another album, and that's another way to segue into that. I have an album. It took me until I released an album called "Hence the Humor," and when I call an album, I mean just audio, because I love, we made many years ago a video or whatever you call it, a live thing with me, but I love albums. Like I love Mitch Hedberg's albums. I love the idea that you can listen to comedy without seeing. So I made an album called Hence the Humor, and I released it in 2019, and that was the first album I ever released. So that could show I have some OCD issues. And the reason why I released it was because it was the pandemic. And I said to myself, because of my OCD problems, I've been waiting so long with this. I recorded it in 2013 and was still spinning. I wasn't putting it out, but then the pandemic hit and I said, I don't want to put out an album anymore. Like I was stuck on the physical details, but now I was like, I never want to see people again. I don't never want to be at a comedy club. And do I really want to be in a diseased environment with the ventilation of a comedy club and someone has their old album of mine coming up with their germs and their maskless? No. So I sold this in the pandemic. You can't even buy a physical copy. This cannot give you a virus unless downloading does. So I would say that I'm still...
Unless you're getting it from a shady website, it's not going to give you a virus.
No, yeah. No, that's just exactly right. I should have realized, of course, that's where you're going to get the viruses.
Piracy is a crime, kids.
It is a crime. But I would say that That is the only thing I would really recommend that, and I would because I'm really proud of that. It's the thing I'm almost most proud of. It's called Hence the Humor, and you can download it anywhere. And then I have a podcast called Thought Spiral with my friend who's a comedian, Josh Weinstein, and it's just we advertise it as 2 Jews, 2 microphones, 2 hours.
Well, if you're ever in the market for another Jew, I can do a guest spot.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. No guests, just me and him. Me and him. I love it. I can hear in the studio. Oh yeah. Well, you're not reacting like I found gold exactly.
I mean,
well, that does sound good.
Several Jews in the same
Jews.
room laughing at themselves. That's kind of the setup for our show as well. It's mostly just us watching.
Right, but I think I'm underselling it. People love it, and I can barely have time to do this interview because I'm so busy with it.
I see. Look at Mr. Big Shot over here. Too big for this podcast. Go for a small TV show like this. I see how it is. I'm joking. In case it needs.
I know you're joking. I'm getting better at not hopping in. This is when you get older and you learn. Like, I'm not saying getting older is great because, it's not bad. And you stop trying to. I've lost in the last 10 years. I've lost my crazy ambition. You know what I mean? Like, well, how come I don't have this? How come I? And when you lose that, you just feel. Then you're not jumping in all the time. But I'm sure you're saying to yourself, this interview's going on for 5 hours already. So I don't think that he's
this is not nearly the longest
interview
ever.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, we've gotten people talking for an hour and a half. Not of my own volition, but I just put in the dime and the whole album plays.
Right, you can't always stop these people.
Yeah, considering
you have people come on and play. So you have people come on and play songs and stuff?
No, not yet, actually. Except for yes, we actually had Jeff. Wait, was it Swampy?
Yeah, Swampy came. He was playing.
Yeah, we had Jeff Swampy Marsh, one of the main people who created the show Phineas and Ferb, and he also was demonstrating some of the musical stuff that he does for the show.
Yeah,
I think I've been on. Is that a cartoon?
Yes.
I think maybe I've been on that show. But if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong, right?
So I got on IMDb.
Nobody needs to get on IMDb now. There's no reason to cater to my weird eccentricities.
Speaking of things like that, you have done a lot of voice work in your career. How does that compare to doing on-screen or on-stage performances?
It's really an amazing thing to be able to do it. For a long time, I wanted to see if I can make more, not just make a living. I mean, not just, I never wanted to just do voiceovers. I tried to see if I could get more voiceovers. And whenever I would go out to audition for things, I never got it. It's only through, like through comedy. So through comedy, I knew Jonathan Katz, who is a brilliant comedian. He had a show in the 90s called Dr. Katz, where he was do you know the show?
I haven't, but the director has.
He was a cartoon therapist. He was like a psychologist, like kind of like a Bob Newhart kind of psychologist, and his patients were comedians basically who would come on, and it was on Comedy Central, and and then I did from that. The same people who did that show did a show called Home Movies. Does that ring a bell? How old am it? Used to be? Oh, I was older, but that people would get some of the more current. Home Movies was a Brendan Smalls show that he did on Cartoon Network.
It did like Metalocalypse, and it was on Cartoon Network on the Adult Swim.
Right, and some of the same guys are on Bob's Burgers, which is the show I currently do a voice on. I play Mort on that show. Those are the same people, not all the same people, but some of the people from the original Dr. Katz are the people who created Bob's Burgers. So I've done just through that, and I love doing it, and I would love to do a lot more. I don't know why I had to talk about how I got them, but it just was interesting that I guess I'm making the point that when you go out to audition for voiceovers, it's a very conservative, weird field. So like commercials in general are. So a lot of times I would try to be joking around and people, you know, like they would tell me to stop. I mean, I used to have a joke about this where I used to fool around on commercial auditions. You know, they'd say your name, and I would, you know, do a joke. Hey, I'm Andy, and they go, "Don't be shticky." Okay. This is what some guy said to me. Don't be shticky. So my joke was, yeah, you know how I hear that? I hate the Jews. That's how I hear that. I hate the Jews, and don't Jew it up. So I don't know what my point was tonight. I think I don't have a point. Maybe I don't have a point about that. But so that's the only voiceovers I've gotten is through either a recommended. No, I've gotten voices I've auditioned for, but only if they've been recommended and only for like a Bob's Burgers or something like that.
So these gigs sort of come about when you got like recommendations from friends or other people in the industry that you work with.
Right, because the thing I'm saying about that is like there are people who make a lot of money doing voiceovers, but there are also people, they have a studio in their home and they can send these things. It's a really weird field the way it you know, the way you have to quote get ahead. So for me, it was I just wasn't because I think that I was going out for a lot of commercials. That's right. I was going out for a lot of, and commercials, they don't usually, unless there are some commercials on there, like I think those progressive commercials where don't turn into your parents are the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Have you seen those?
I think I've picked up some of those.
Oh, they're just unbelievably funny. But in general, commercials are even more conservative than sitcoms and things. I mean, everything's changing, but it used to be that they're more worried that you do something too funny on a commercial and you'll like. I think people could tell on commercial auditions my general distaste for America. I think is what it was. Yeah.
And then you have insurance commercials where they could be doing literally anything these days.
Well, that's what the progressive ones are. I don't like. I mean, the Liberty Mutual commercials to me are the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life.
I get way too many of the freaking Liberty Mutual ads.
Oh, I just Emu and his thing. But this commercial is all these hilarious comedians who are at this workshop where don't want to turn into their parents. So it's really funny. I would say those commercials are the funniest thing I've seen maybe on TV. Are you guys? Do you get a whole different group of commercials over there? You have to have those. Please.
Well, they don't really have to sell AGB to me, so not really. I mostly get a lot of insurance ads or like credit agencies ads because I think it's because I'm in college at the moment. They're really trying to get me to make stupid decisions with credit cards.
Well, I just watch TV all day. My problem is I watch cable all day long, and so all I see are those commercials, and then it's Joe Namath, you may be entitled to more Medicare coverage than you're aware of. My favorite pitch they said is they go, even if you called last year, you can call again this year to find out if you really, you're not going to charge me for the 800 call? Oh my God, what an opportunity.
Most of the time we get a lot of our advertisements through like watching online stuff, so oftentimes they might be tailored to what the internet thinks we are.
I know.
So a lot of times we try to like.
You're giving me a backhanded insult. I can tell. You're making fun of my age. You're going, look, Andy.
No. I actually envy the random ads.
Where did I go?
It's on your
shoulder. I lost one of my things. Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
I didn't stop recording.
Yeah. But either way, like a lot of the things are with a lot of the advertisements that we see, sometimes we like to mute the advertisement, but still try to guess what they're selling to us before it happens. Like if it's something action-y, it's going to be a car ad. If it's something outdoor, car ad. If it's people being really happy, it's a medication that's going to give you millions of side effects. And if it's just some random bullshit, it's insurance.
Well, it's amazing. It's just so sad that there's only three. That I mean, what is our country doesn't do anything really. What we do is there's three things: you ensuring that things won't go bad, and then what were the other? Yeah, whatever you talked about. Oh, the other thing is car shield thing. Oh my God, people are like, your car is going to break down. What's your plan for? Everybody, I think, in this country is on some kind of insurance thing where they're paying a certain amount of money. And even I'm a homeowner, and the first year you get a free insurance on all your appliances, and then for the rest of your life, that same company goes, "Hey, you're not going to insure again with your 40-year-old." What happens when your 40-year-old icebox breaks down?
And we're getting another icebox because the insurance doesn't work anyway. It's like, okay, pay us all this money for in case shit money, and then when something breaks down, pay for it yourself, you bum.
Well, that's true. Well, I mean, I think insurance. I don't want to say that it's not nice to say that just because someone does something for a living, but I think you can say that people who sell insurance are fundamentally flawed as humans. No,
the goal isn't to make sure that you're taking care of it. The goal isn't to make sure that you're taken care of in case something bad happens. The goal is to find a way out of this commitment to taking care of you. It's like,
That's
okay,
right.
What detail about your situation means that we don't have to give you your money back?
Right. And in defense of the I was just joking. In defense of they have hard work to do, these people, the insurance people, and they need to disqualify everybody. Otherwise, how are they going to get rich?
Yes, obviously we can't have that.
No.
Yeah. Rolling back to something that you said earlier. When exactly did you give up on music and start into doing comedy?
Well, your question was when or where? When?
When? Like at what point in your life?
Okay, so what happened was in 1978, I drove cross country to come to Los Angeles, and then by about 1984 or 85, I was just disgusted with myself. But now that I've been in therapy, I realized it was because I was putting a lot of pressure on me. I kept asking myself as a musician, "Are you good enough? Are you good enough? How about your voice? Is your voice?" I didn't realize that very question, it's unanswerable. You just have to do what you think you should do, So because it was acceptable to be funny in my family, I kind of accepted that I was funny. But with music, I always put pressure on myself, and it was so competitive when I was in bands and stuff like that. So I quit music because it wasn't fun anymore. But I didn't quit it really because now I'm playing it because it's fun.
All right. Like at first, it was just something for the career or something for am I good enough or not? And now you can just do it for yourself.
And also the whole thing about wanting to know what the result is going to be is the thing that plagues us all as people. If you really can get the concept, and I'm not saying that I feel this way all the time, but that you really are doing it because you're doing it. You just do it. It's like you don't know what the results are going to be. I don't know what the results of the jokes are going to be. I can't guarantee I'm going to have a sitcom, whatever the thing is. And the more you can stay in the moment with it, it just changes the whole character of enjoying it.
I suppose that's a good benefit of comedy in general, because in any other industry, you can be like, okay, I put this thing out there. Now, how is this going to impact me a couple of years on from here and here and here? I'm not sure how this is going to work out. With especially stand-up comedy, if it works, you can tell because the audience is going to let you know.
Yes, but the thing is, in that way, it's actually a good thing because it's kind of it's very egalitarian in the sense that, like I used to have a problem with what the crowds like, because the kind of the lowest common denominator would go down further. But what's absolutely true is just like a director who makes a movie and puts it in a theater to see how live people. You just don't know how live people are going to react. So you start playing it in front of live people. But I think the mistake that people make is like to me, I'll do a joke. It's even for like, if I know 5 people will get it. If I think it's funny, I'll do it. So it's like you have to make your own decisions, but it is a really great thing it's an amazing thing that I get to do these jokes in front of people, because they're, I was listening to last night to this podcast, and this guy was in theater his whole life, and he was just talking about how there really is no experience like live theater, whether it's stand-up or he was talking about acting. He was just talking the difference between acting in front of people where you are making a connection and you can't, I used to love acting in the theater, but sometimes you'd be like, these people looking at me funny. But he's saying that there's something extremely more real about that than TV and film. TV and film can never be that way because they don't have the relationship going on in the moment. It's you performing, people receiving. And I think it was a good thing for me to hear, because I grew up kind of hating theater. Like I thought everything was musicals but no, obviously theater is where everything came from, or live spaces or performances.
Yeah. And speaking of which, you had started out your comedy career during the big LA comedy scene that cropped up in the 80s, correct?
Yeah, I started in 84. I started stand-up on my own. What happened was, my friend Bill, we were working at a stereo store together. You don't know, they used to have stereo stores where people.
Yes.
Right. But I mean, like, it was like, I don't know why I said it like that, but it's like, that doesn't exist anymore, where you have to go and you can get ripped off by going to buy something. It was a weird business, but it was kind of fun. But it used to be like you could make money selling stereos. And now, now what every electronic thing costs. And I still think cars are scary. I'm totally scared of ever going into a showroom for cars. But my friend Bill, we were at a picnic, and I was kidding around with everybody at the picnic, and he suggested to do stand-up. So I was actually wouldn't have maybe started even without him. So I was in a duo for a couple of years, and I did that. And then I went on my own in like 86, and I was on the road, and that's right in the middle of that comedy boom that you're talking about. So I was on the road for like 5 years, 87 to 92, like almost like 40 weeks a year in clubs. It was really I mean, it had to implode at one point because it was getting ridiculous. It was like, well, everybody who sounded like Seinfeld wants to deal with this situation. Why do they call it toothpaste? Paste it. So it just got to be. So I actually came up in the comedy boom, but then I was actually part of what they call the stand-up comedian alternative period, when it started in the early 90s with Janine Garofalo and David Cross and Bob Odenkirk. And that was in the mid 90s as a reaction to because I used to have a joke in the 80s, if you could say, how you people doing, you can make $40,000 a year, Yeah. It's like, and comedy was so cheap, and like, you go into these places, where's the comedy club? Oh, you're going to love it. It's in the mall. It's right next to the Bed Bath & Beyond. Take the escalator to the Hickory Farms, and you're going to love it. And then you go in there, and then you got pictures of Laurel and Hardy on the wall, and the Marx Brothers. Why drag them into it? What did they do?
Like, where are you dragging some of the best, Laurel and Hardy, or they'll put up, say, physical comedians like Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton? It's like, why sully the name?
Yeah, but so that was an alternative movement. So that movement is still, I'm proud to say, I think right now, being a comedian is such an exciting thing, because all the taboos, I mean, it also is, there's terrible things about everything. I mean, when I started, you couldn't, people were afraid to say they're gay, and all this, but now there's so much, and we don't have to get into it, there's so much anti-trans stuff that I never even, this anti-trans thing is really bad. But that being said, that there are people who are right-wing people, I don't know how else to put it, who are, the people who actually believe that there's cancel culture, they're selling that as a thing, or Fox News. What was we talking about? Damn it. Just identify the topic for me.
The LA comedy scene in the 80s and the alternative scene in the 90s.
Right, but how did I get off into this? But in general, whoever brought me back, in general, today you don't have to be, if you're, doesn't matter what your sexual, you can talk about your sexual, what preferences and all that. Yeah, orientation. And it's like, when I started, it was like, there weren't even that many black comedians. There weren't that many women comedians. When if a woman was a comedian back when they not all of them, obviously, Joan Rivers. People have been funny forever, and Carol Burnett, but within stand-up, it was such a rigid system during the boom. It's amazing. If you go back and you watch like Johnny the Tonight shows of the 80s, you will not believe how much homophobia there was. It's scary how much it was. How many people were doing jokes based on mocking homophobia? Mocking homosexuality. I didn't mean to make this serious.
These interviews end up as like a roller coaster of like, okay,
a roller
we're going to be
coaster,
talking about
right.
little jokes about this stuff and that stuff, and then we're going to be talking about tragedy.
He started with funerals, so
like, considering you did start with stories about funerals, this has been a bit of a.
That is true. No, but I don't want to end it on a bummer. The thing I was saying was, it's great. Like right now, for a long time, I used to do this thing about how the last place, because it got so hacky, the last place people would expect to find something funny would be a comedy club. You know what I mean? It was like, you like in the 80s, it'd be like, hi, congratulations, you won our answer the phone contest. Would you like to bring you and 50 people who know even less than you about comedy to the club? Free tickets. Who's playing? Never. That was the thing. It was like almost like it'd be like, who's playing? The clubs didn't even tell you who was playing. It'd be like not telling you what movie. What movie's playing there? Yeah, you like movies. Come on, come down to the movie place. The people who are like Carrot Top and Larry the Cable Guy and are there with people who like
or
art house movies.
Or Seinfeld clone number 87.
Right. Right on.
Yeah.
I don't even have a clock. This is really bad for you guys. I don't have a clock. So we could have been on for 5 hours. I have no idea.
It's fine.
You guys are going to have to pull the plug.
We only got a couple questions left, so we'll try and wrap it up. If time is a factor for you.
No, I'm fine. That's what I'm saying. I can't see a clock. I have no idea what time it is.
it's like Vegas.
Yeah.
It's Vegas. That's right.
Back to an earlier subject.
It's crazy tonight.
Back to an earlier subject that you brought up, the concept of cancel culture and comedians getting caught in the crossfire. The debate of the moment often comes down to what lines cannot be crossed. Are there any lines in comedy that you won't cross with any jokes you can make?
Absolutely. This thing is, it's the way the thing is framed. It is the way the thing is framed that's so kind of, in other words, like, if you make a joke that isn't, like, if you're a comedian, you make a joke that you find later you think it was too insulting, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't believe that you can have that, like if you don't believe that that's what comics do, and which is what some comics say, comedy, I can say whatever I want. No, it's not true. It is absolutely not true. You have the right to say whatever you want on stage, and people have the right to say they hate it. Now, if you're in a comedy club, is someone allowed to heckle? No, we have certain rule, things that we consider right. You pay and
The rule
whatever.
of don't be an asshole goes for both the comedian and the audience.
Right, but the point being that the fear. You see, it's like it's such a big topic because you have people like Jon Stewart. This guy Joe Rogan is he's a racist. Joe Rogan, and he's a conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
So when you have a guy like Jon Stewart come to the defense of Joe Rogan, first of all, to say, oh, he's not an ideologue, and to portray him as a nice guy, well, obviously, Jon Stewart has no idea what Joe Rogan is saying, or he thinks he has to protect another rich white guy. I don't know why he would jump to the defense of someone that he knows nothing about what the person is saying, but he comes on with his whole, he goes, don't censor, let's not censor. Well, I'm so tired of that argument because that argument, of course, we know is untrue. Censorship is not whether you have a show on Spotify or not. That's not censorship. Censorship is when the government stops you from talking, So
honestly, what's been going on with Jon Stewart it's really disappointing.
It's
he was
disappointing.
He has big influence on what I'm trying to do with this show now, and see how far he's.
Yeah, and I understand. It's like I've had problems with him forever. I'm very old, so I was on the Daily Show as a correspondent.
Yes.
And I feel that it's very hard because people online don't like when I say this, and sometimes they go, "Oh, you sound envious." Well, of course, everyone's envious, but the point is, my point is, I don't think he was. Sadly, I don't think he was ever as great as people wanted him to be. And I'm not saying he wasn't hilarious. But I really feel the Daily Show was so many. It was not only him; it was also Colbert, and it was Samantha Bee and Carell. It was all these people. And so say like so my point is that he's always had this. He's always had this when he went to Washington in 2011. That was ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, to me, that was a example of someone has narcissistic personality disorder. What was that? He goes there and he's like, "You're not he says, "They're the problem, right? You're not the problem." He's talking to the people. You probably don't remember. You probably weren't born when this happened.
How
right?
old do you think I am?
17, 20, 20. So you weren't born.
Over this.
No, you were born, but you were. I don't like that. And one bit at all. That means you're born
like, hey, you're only around years here, buddy. If you ended up making yourself feel old, that's your own fault.
If you don't have a 9 in your name on your letter, if you're not rocking a 1997, forget it, buddy.
I'm just on the cusp between millennial and Gen Z, so therefore I am depressed. And also with Gen X parents. So I'm getting the best and worst of every world here.
You know what it is? I think this is always true. I was convinced that I had missed the era that I was meant to be part of with, the 60s and all that kind of stuff. And I missed it. I was, but I think everybody feels that way. So all I'm saying is it's your time. It's your time now. But the point is, the long and short of it is, yes, in the sense that I don't know if you remember the story about this one woman who said something very stupid, some stupid joke about Africans and AIDS or whatever. And then when she got to Africa, she had lost her job. And it was a big thing 10 years ago because it just was insensitive. So I don't like when people get shamed or, you know what I'm saying? I don't like when it gets to be a shaming event. But in general, I don't, other than the shaming event, which I think is a small part of what we're talking about, in general, I do not believe there's anything. I believe that the idea of cancel culture is made up by people, not made up, but is mostly talked about by the right wing and white supremacists. And it's the same people who say, and I'm learning this a lot, there's the same people who say, hey, you can't, no free speech on the no free speech on the campus. I mean, they want to hire Richard Spencer. And it's like, now we know that that's Richard Spencer. Now we know it's white supremacy. It's not about free, in my opinion, it's not about free speech on campus. Free speech is what some people who are saying horrible things are using to justify them saying horrible things. And I think that's what cancel culture is, ultimately.
Overblown.
Overblown and also used to justify. It's a way for comics. Jon Stewart wants to say, hey man, don't censor me. You know, it's so nakedly transparent. It's like, don't censor us. He's worried about what if someone came after him. Isn't that, it seems transparent to me. Otherwise, why would he be upset about it? And I don't think we know why he's come this way. All I'm saying about him though is that you could tell he was always this way. Even the thing that he did, think about the thing with Jim Cramer. Do you remember when he called out Jim Cramer?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
So he's calling out Jim Cramer. It was after he called out Tucker Carlson and everything. He's calling out Jim Cramer and he starts to yell at Jim Cramer about my parents and or about all the people, not his parents, all the people who lost their money in the from the stock market crashing, right? So it felt to me like he was setting this up, like it's part of his shtick to be the savior. And that being said, like I had people email me or say things to me about what he did for the first responders, and I love what he did for the first responders. That's why it's all very hard and complicated. It's like no, the same thing that motivated him to do first responders. He's got a lot of things going on, so it's weird. It's like it's like you can never take that away from him. And I cried when he would do it too. He was so effective. And yet he's also this other person who's done this thing.
Didn't realize this interview would turn into a call out on Jon Stewart.
What's that?
Didn't realize this interview would turn into a call out on Jon Stewart, but stranger things have happened in these interviews.
No, I think it's going to be like this. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like this sometimes because, this is what's going on right now. And when you talk about cancel culture, I think it really is a large issue. It's not just Jon Stewart, but it's a really, really large issue of, and I'll give you a perfect example of it. When people come in, and a lot of comics, comedians are weighing in, or J.K. Rowling, she's weighing in on gender issues. It's really disturbing because the truth is, I feel so strongly about this. Like, I don't care what people can think and say they are whatever they want to be. It has nothing to do with me. They can identify any way they want. It's ridiculous. I make a joke like, I'm 65, I still don't know what my gender is. But the scary thing is that that's not the issue. It's not, there is no world where trans people are ruining like in England, trans people are taking all the rights away from women. It's not true. But what's true is that it fits into, sadly, a white supremacist theme. And it's a way of othering people.
It's the same tactic as, we don't have any money because the Jews take all the money. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, what? Where's my money?
Right, but that's such a cliche now, but that you wouldn't even see where the hate was in Jews. But Bill Maher talking about Islam, bashing Muslims, and he's appealing to the worst of our angels, or whatever. And I felt like for many years I was like the only person, not the only person, but people who like this whole new atheism movement. And so this is the thing that's disturbing about it is, to me, free speech, when people say free speech, that it almost always means they're a right-wing white supremacist, right? That's just the way it's shaken out. If you meet someone and they're very upset about trans people, it is related to some form of white supremacy or Nazism or something where you other people, you other them. That's like the Proud Boys, all this stuff. So I think it is scary. I think it is pretty scary, but that's why I get really. I think it's. I think I probably haven't been more upset about anything I've been about this trans thing because I seem to. I do this joke where I say, you know, I used to think comedians like Adam Carolla or Rob Schneider, you know, they're just bad comedians, right? But I never thought millions. Uh-oh.
No.
Yes, I can still hear you.
I lost my buds, but I go, I never thought bad comedy would cause the death of millions, right? These you know, Rob Schneider is talking about the truck convoy, and they're all, Joe Rogan is telling people that the government is giving them this virus. Now it's not just bad comedy. It could actually cause death. Hold on. Hey, I think I got a solution to this.
I actually had something to get back on something a little bit lighter. It's like, let's take the roller coaster back up.
Hold on a second. Let me just, I think I need to disconnect my,
We're experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll be back in a moment. All right, cool. All right, so like we'll cut out all that bit just to deal with technical difficulties.
You can put anything you want in it. You can do anything you want with this footage.
All right,
anything you want.
Sliding back into it, let's get back onto something a little bit lighter. You've done the Moon Tower Comedy Festival.
A little bit lighter than transphobia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Yeah, trying to get a little. How does the emerging comedy scene in Austin and like Moon Tower compare to doing comedy in LA or New York?
Austin is the greatest. Austin, I would say, has just the greatest crowds. I would say, you know, I mean, and Austin also has a long history of doing comedy. Like, you know, Bill Hicks played the Cap City Comedy Club. So I think that, and they're used to having South by Southwest there. It's just, I think it just, except for that it's painfully hot in the summer, right? I think that, otherwise, I think I cannot recommend New York or LA or anywhere more than Austin, but I don't live there.
Oh, thank you.
First of all, it has the greatest music. You know, I'm a big fan of like Lucinda Williams and Steve Earle and all kinds of country music. And so I think it has a personality. The city has a personality from that too. And from the school
if you need like
too.
a soundtrack to anything, or you just want some music on in the background, just step outside. You're about to get at least 4.
Right. But you're also going to get Amy's Ice Cream.
Yeah. And best of all, Torchy's Tacos and HEB.
Where's the tacos?
Torchy's Tacos, and more importantly, HEB.
Is HEB a supermarket?
Yes, it's a grocery store line.
Oh.
Like other retailers, other grocery store lines won't come into Texas because they can't compete with HEB.
Well, but the other thing is the breakfast tacos are the greatest thing in the.
Yes.
The greatest thing in the history of the world. Thank you. So good.
Well, like I said, if you're ever in town,
that is light. I did make it lighter, didn't I? Everybody, come on.
Yeah.
Come on now, folks.
Yeah. Kudos. Credit.
Oh, by the way, I stand behind everything I've said up to this point.
Oh yeah. Just because nobody watches this show doesn't mean that like stances aren't genuine. All right, now wrapping all this up, there's one big question that we're asking all the guests this season. If you could bring back any 2 people from the dead for 24 hours, who would you bring back and what would you do with them?
These are tough ones because all of a sudden, well, I would bring back Muhammad Ali because he's the greatest. He is the greatest. He just is the greatest. And really was a hero. So I want to just hang out with him, see what he had to say.
Okay.
And then who else? There's so many people who are dead that I enjoyed. Vincent, I think people maybe Buster Keaton, or maybe I don't know. Now I'm riffing.
It's all
Dylan. He's alive. I'm nervous. Now I'm
Dylan's
nervous
not dead,
all of a sudden.
isn't he, though?
There's something about quizzes that are just, it's like I get hot. It's like I'm afraid I'm going to lose, or
This isn't a competition.
yeah, but they're dead. You're making it dead people, so they have to be dead. So then it just gets depressing after a while. Mae West. I think I've covered it. Right? I mean, do all your answers have to be answered correctly or well? You have so many
this
guests,
one has
I'm
been
sure.
more subjective than others. One of the previous ones was, and I quote, I think I'd bring back Hitler twice to run him over with my car for about an hour, maybe throw batteries at him.
Oh, that's what the person just
Yeah, one person said, like, well, if I'm only bringing him back for 24 hours, it's kind of messed up. So I'll bring back Hitler and just throw batteries at his head.
Yeah. See, that's a little I
Most
think
creative
I
use
don't
of the
think you
question
want
I've seen.
it's celebrating your dark side too much.
Yeah. We get all kinds of people on this show.
You haven't gotten anybody like Andy Kindler, have you?
Certainly not, but it was definitely great. It was definitely great to have you on. And
I just wanted to toot my own horn at the end.
Sure.
yeah,
Why wouldn't you?
well, I think I could toot your horn
Because
a
I'm
little bit.
supposed to have overcome these kind of character traits. Like
Who
more
says?
about me. More about me.
I think I can end it off
I
a
hope I
little bit
haven't
more of you.
insulted anyone. I hope I haven't insulted anyone who is pro transphobia. Okay, please accept my apology.
Don't worry. Leave the insulting of those people to me.
Doing what?
If there are Nazis or assholes out there, rest assured, I'm on it on insulting them.
Well,
I
don't
take
forget, Putin wants to denazify Ukraine, denazify them where their leader is Jewish.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And
Here you
now
go.
we're back down
Oh,
to
wait a
the
second. Are you telling me that this show isn't the let's focus even more on the horrible things that are happening now show?
We saved that for one segment.
When you book me, you bring the storm with you, baby. The storm's coming.
Damn, did we even need to do a thing for this episode?
I don't even think so. I think we're good.
Now,
we'll just run the.
Wait,
the
no,
interview
I
the
can't.
whole
I take that negatively. I take that. No, we don't need it. Get him off now.
No.
He obviously has no place to go. We're younger people. We have a night ahead of us. Maybe the weather will clear up. Get him off the goddamn phone.
Well, your words, not mine.
That's a great close. I'm very, the thing is like, I'm very happy. One of my favorite things is to exit the phone conversations, fake, like I'm angry, and then slam on the leave. But then there's that awkward thing where you have to hit the second leave button.
Yeah.
She's like, don't tell me what to do.
Well, then, I guess a good way to end this interview would be like, Andy Kindler, everybody. We'll be right back. Oh, hey. Thank you very much for watching. We'd like to thank Andy Kindler for coming on the show and being a great interview and also really making a good attempt for a longest interview. Unfortunately, Jen Kretschmer still has that in spades. We're rolling up on the end of the season, so if you like this, be sure to stick around for the season finale next time. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and as always, it is what it is.